Hello everyone, a very good morning. Today's topic of interest is of wrought metal alloys. Okay, and coming to a wrought metal, in this chapter the author uses the terms metal and alloy simultaneously because according to certain authors metal is a complete one metal, alloy is a mixture of one or more combination, but here in this chapter in the Phillips we'll be using it simultaneously. Don't get confused. Now coming to what is a wrought metal, according to definition, let's go through it. A metal that has been plastically deformed to alter the shape of the structure and certain mechanical properties such as strength, hardness and ductility. So any metal, either it can be a cast base metal or a noble metal, which undergoes some kind of mechanical as well as cold working process, that is in the process of cold working and mechanical strain it is plastically deformed to have some desired mechanical properties. So that is the definition of wrought metal. This itself explains everything about the wrought metal. Okay, now coming to how it is manufactured, it is as simple as that. In the definition, a cast metal, as we said, will plastically deform it. But how do we do it? We do it by subjecting it to heat treatment, that is intermittent heat treatment, and passing through a series of dies. Die is nothing but a replica. Like if you want an orthodontic wire to be constructed, which is a wrought wire, you will pass it to a die which resembles the orthodontic wire shape. So that is what it is done. Cast alloy, it is passed to a series of dies through intermittent heat treatment. What are these heat treatments? This is nothing similar to what we observe in our daily life, like the glass making. What they'll do, they'll heat it to a higher temperature where the glass is very moldable. When it is moldable and got into a desired shape using some instruments or pliers, then they suddenly quench it in the water so that that particular shape is fixed. So this is how the wrought metal alloys are also being manufactured. So this cast alloys undergoes a series of dies treatment through intermittent heat treatment, and then we'll get the wrought form of the alloy. Now coming to the uses of the wrought metals, it is used in orthodontic wires because it requires some flexibility, ductility for the movement of teeth, orthodontic brackets and endodontic files. Why in endodontic files? Because the curved canals or the canals which the root canals which we find in our teeth are not straight, they are curved. So you require some amount of flexibility and ductility. So in order to incorporate certain properties, as we have already known in definition, so we use this wrought metal alloys. So that is why it is used here in endodontic files. Prefabricated crowns where we can manipulate the crown, not like a casted crown, and partial denture clasp where the patient can put in and take out the clasp, and certain surgical instruments. Okay, now coming to certain properties of the wrought metal alloys. One is ductility. Ductility is the ability of the metal to be drawn into wires. Same like this, like orthodontic wires, what we get, that property is ductility. Malleability is the ability of a material to be drawn into thin sheets like the gold foil. Okay, and what is biocompatibility in a metal? Biocompatibility is the resistance to the corrosion. Okay, and what is joinability? Joinability is something that we can able to fix two metals together either by soldering or welding, that is an ease of auxiliary attachment. Now coming to the rest of the properties, which are the complete mechanical properties of a wrought metal alloy. It is similar to the general mechanical properties what we deal with. So that is why we'll go through the stress strain curve. We'll just brush up on the basics now. Now coming to this stress strain curve. Okay, now coming to the stress strain curve, as we already know, there is some linear portion of the graph which is corresponds to the proportionality limit. That means which exhibits the where the material will exhibit some kind of elastic behavior, whereas some parabolic or the curved part which is from the intersection point to second red dot to the fracture point is called as the plastic portion of the graph. You already know that. Now coming to just a little brush up on it, there are 2 points in the elastic region, that is till the second dot. One is the point of proportionality, that is called as proportional limit, till where until the strain which we are applying is directly proportional, stress is directly proportional to the strain according to the okay, stress is directly proportional to the strain till a point which is called as the proportional limit, and the elastic limit is that point until which the material will behave elastically. That means it is able to regain to its original shape once when the stress is relieved. Just consider an example of a rubber band. When you apply the stress, when you relieve it, it will regain to original point, or the point where it is first before the force is applied. So that point up to which it is elastic is called as the elastic limit. And another point which is not practical, and you are not able to exactly differentiate when the plastic limit has started, that is when the plasticity of the material has started. So that is why there is one theoretical point that is present, which is called as the yield point. Okay, this yield strength or the yield point is nothing but where you will have an offset yield, that is 0.2% of the plasticity, that is a slight deformation has started in the material, but it is very negligible, can't be appreciated. So that point is called as the yield point. Okay, and at that point usually we'll take it as the beginning of the plasticity. So there are 3 points, don't get confused. One is proportional limit, which is the point at which the stress is directly proportional to strain, until which the stress is directly proportional to strain, and the elastic limit where until which it exhibits the elastic behavior, and the plastic limit or the yield strength where the limit, it is also called as yield point, and until which the plasticity has started. Okay, now coming to the terms, let us just fix this term to the wrought alloy. What is the working range of a wrought alloy? It is the maximum elastic deflection of the wire exhibits is called as the elastic working range. Simply, it is the point of elastic limit, that is the point of elastic limit is considered as the elastic range. And what is the yield point considered? Yield point is a practicality point. So there is some yield already happened, so by calculating that they have given a name for it, which is called as the spring back. Okay, spring back, it means the practical working range considered to be elastic strain at the yield strength. That means at the yield strength point, the amount of elastic strain that has occurred is called as the spring back. Let us consider the elastic strain as E and the yield strength as Ys. Then the spring back is considered as Ys by E, that is spring back of a particular point. Okay, and now after finishing off this graph, there are many points which we have discussed in the properties which are covered here. And what is resilience? You already know the portion of the graph under strain, the area under strain is completely called as the resilience. Under the elastic limit is resilient, and total area of the graph is called as the toughness. Now it's understood, right? Now coming to the deformation of metals. So now coming to the deformation of metals, usually in wrought metal alloys, the crystallization doesn't start at a point and end there. So it is not occurring by plane to plane. Indeed, it is occurring in random and imperfect manner, because of which there will be certain kind of defects which are present, which are called as the crystal imperfections. It can be a vacancy or point defect. It is also called as equilibrium state defect, and other is a line defect or dislocation. And also there are dislocations which are occurring in polycrystalline metals, not a single metal, it is a crystal, polycrystalline. That means it will have a solute, a matrix, different crystal structure, different atoms. Okay, and also another point of twinning. Okay, now what is a point defect? A point defect is one in which the lattice positions will have either missing atoms or displaced atoms or the extra atoms. For example, consider point A where there is missing atom, that is vacancy. If it is B, there is also a missing atoms. Whereas C, there is extra atom which is occupying the interstitial spaces of the others, causing the other molecules to get displaced. Okay, that is called as an interstitial atom. And again, this vacancy can be 2 or 3. It can be a bivacancy or trivacancy. And why it is called as equilibrium state defect? Because there is because this defects will occur at the room temperature. There is no rise in temperature at the point of the defect, so this is called as an equilibrium state defects. Okay, now coming to line defect. So what is a line defect? It is a single vertical plane of defect where a one plane is in defect, that is called as a line defect, and it is represented by the symbol reverse T. And now coming to when a shear stress is applied for a cube or the crystal which is having a line defect, then there is a transfer of defect from one plane to another plane, and the direction in which it is transferred according to the force applied is the slip direction, and the plane it is moving, it is called as a slip plane. See the light blue color thing which is rounded, that is the line defect, and the direction is represented by the force, that is the slip direction. The entire system, that is slip plane plus slip direction, is called as the slip system. So now exactly why is this defect is useful? Because this defects usually they bring about the plasticity of a material. If there are no more number of slip systems, it means that there is more plasticity. So when we are comparing a lattice, then the face centered cubic will have more ductility because of more number of slip system compared to body centered cubic and hexagonal closely packed. Now coming to the shear stress, when it is present, if you consider perfect crystal and a crystal with dislocations or defects like line or point defect, less shear stress is required to cause the permanent deformation of metal crystals that contains edge dislocations compared with perfect crystals. You know why now? Because it is only one row of atomic bonds that have to be broken, but here you have to break the entire plane. Okay, now the alloys which contain multiple phases like the polycrystalline metals or some of the solid state solutions or precipitates, they will have some solute atoms within, like different atom of the same crystal. Okay, so what they'll do is they'll impede this slip plane which is moving. So this slip plane can be impeded by the coherent solute atoms or the incoherent. Coherent ones is something similar to the B, where this coherent precipitate will cause some dislocation in or distortion in the slip plane as already shown, and whereas this incoherent ones, they forms loops around the solute crystals. Okay, so what is this required for? This is because it provides a strengthening mechanism for the metals because of presence of the solute atoms. So that is why we'll add more grain structures into the alloys to increase the strength of the alloy, to prevent easy ductility of the alloy. This is the basis for the strain hardening, precipitation hardening and grain refinement. So what happens because of this strain hardening is that there will be increase in the proportional limit, hardness and yield strength of the material, whereas the ductility and the corrosion resistance is decreased. So the property we desired to have in a wrought metal alloys, that is the so all these properties have been incorporated because of the effects of strain hardening, that is before manufacturing or using the alloy. Now coming to another mode of permanent deformation is twinning in certain wrought metal alloys. So what is exactly this twinning is that it is an atomic arrangement in which a crystal takes a different crystallographic axis orientation from the rest of the crystal. See, there is some slightly bend in the axis orientation. So because of this also there will be certain deformation happening which will bring back the desired mechanical properties of a wrought metal alloy. So examples of those exhibiting this is alpha titanium and austenite to martensite transformation, which will be discussed in the later slide.